My parents, residing rent-free in the back unit of my house, decided they needed to swap living arrangements with my brother, claiming he deserved a better start. They even showed my home to him behind my back. Little did they know, I had already sold the entire property. I always thought I was doing the right thing for my family. It's funny how being a good daughter can be your biggest mistake. My name is Meg, and 6 months ago, I bought a house in a quiet neighborhood near Portland. It wasn't exactly my dream home, but it had potential. 2 identical units, separate entrances, and a shared yard. The real estate agent incessantly touted the rental income, but I had different plans. My parents had been struggling since my father lost his job, and my mother's part-time library position barely covered the monthly expenses. "We can't accept this, daughter," my mother stated as soon as I showed them the back unit, already scrutinizing the kitchen cabinets. "This is too much, Mom. Think of it as an investment in the family." My dad remained by the door, hands in his pockets. "Your mother is right, Meg. We raised you to be independent, not to look after us." But guess what? They still moved in. The alternative was moving in with my younger brother Chris and his girlfriend Nina in their cramped 1-bedroom apartment, a situation that wouldn't last 2 days without a fight. Initially, it was okay. Mom planted herbs in the yard, Dad fixed things around both units, and I finally felt like I'd accomplished something worthwhile with my engineering salary. However, the complaints started. "The morning light is so much nicer in your unit," Mom would say, having coffee with me as we did every week. "The back unit feels like a cave sometimes." "Mom, the plants are mirrored. It's exactly the same layout." "Maybe, but yours faces east. Makes all the difference in the week. Your kitchen has more counter space, doesn't it?" "No, it doesn't," I'd say patiently. "It seems larger," she'd sigh. "But we are very grateful, you know." I don't want this to seem like we are complaining. A friend at work warned me. "They will take advantage of your kindness. That's what family does." "Not my family," I retorted. "They're just adjusting." She simply gave me that look, the one that says, sweetly diluted, without needing words. Life continued at a pace. I waved goodbye to my mom when I left for work, helped my dad in the yard on weekends, and pretended not to notice the growing list of complaints about their home. The rent I didn't charge was never mentioned, but the free maintenance, the electricity, water, and internet bills all became obligations, not favors. Until one day, I found my front door slightly ajar. I always lock it, always with a knot in my stomach. I pushed the door open slowly, looking around for signs of forced entry. Nothing seemed out of place. The TV was still on, my laptop untouched on the coffee table, but something was amiss in the kitchen. A glossy pamphlet lay on the counter, promising to transform a dream into reality. The cover featured a beautifully decorated nursery with yellow walls. The pristine white walls and furnishings were stark, a stark contrast to the usual clutter. I had no children, no pregnancy, no boyfriend. My mother, alerted by the sound of footsteps, had called out from the connecting doorway. "You're here today just for a minute, Mira?" Her voice had echoed from the other side. I was searching for my tape measure, assuming it might be with her. A baby room pamphlet lay on my counter. A sudden thought struck me. Had it been Nina and Chris, who'd stopped by earlier? My stomach had lurched. They had only stopped by for a short time. Nina had wanted to see my design. They were evidently considering starting a family soon. I stood there, holding the pamphlet, attempting to discern her unspoken message. My sister-in-law's girlfriend needed to see my home's layout. They were taking measurements while I was working. "Next time, please don't allow anyone inside without notifying me," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "Meg, don't exaggerate. We're family." A word that should mean everything, but in my case, often ended up costing me something. I re-examined the flyer. Someone was clearly envisioning a nursery in my home. My phone buzzed. A text from Emma. "Friend, you need to see what Nina just posted on Insta." I'd anticipated my tranquil life being turned upside down. Nina, smiling, was twirling in what was unmistakably my bathroom on the story. The cream tiles I had personally chosen were prominently featured in the background. I watched it 3 times before calling Emma. "Tell me I'm crazy." "You're not crazy. That's definitely your bathroom. What's going on?" Before I could respond, another message arrived, from Chris, but clearly not intended for me. "Mom said Megs will give in once we explain. She's always been practical in these matters." My hands trembled as I took a screenshot. Immediately after, he sent, "Sorry, wrong message. Sorry." I headed straight to my parents' apartment and banged on the door. My mom answered, already poised to justify any absurdity, as if for our benefit. "We need to talk," she said, stepping into the living room. My dad was in his usual corner, pretending to concentrate on the crossword puzzle. Regarding Mira, I showed her the video of Nina on my phone. Why was my sister-in-law's girlfriend touring my home on social media? My mother sat down, smoothing her skirt. We were going to tell you. Chris and Nina want to start a family. They need more space, and your unit would be perfect. The one in the back is fine for a single person, and you live outside working. The casual way she spoke, as if suggesting a parking spot change, not a home change, suffocated me. Let me see if I understand, I said. You want me to give up the property I bought, the one I pay for Chris? It's not about giving up, my father finally said without looking up from the newspaper. It's about exchanging. You'd still have a smaller, darker place to live. Exactly the place you complain about months on end. Those weren't complaints, my mother countered with a dismissive wave of her hand. Just observations. Besides, Chris needs... He paused. What do I need? No one will ask. You already have your career, Mika. Chris is starting something new now, and Nina wants to be a full-time mother. They require support, and I didn't buy this house. I gave you a home for free. That doesn't count as support. It's different. My mother said, "You're stopping." I'm what? You're strong, you always managed. These words were like a slap. I spent my life hearing variations of that. Meg can handle it. Meg is tough. Meg doesn't need help. And Chris, he doesn't have to do it all by himself. He's 27. Mom, when will he learn to fend for himself? Family helps family. My father murmured from a corner, help or abuse. My mother's face grew serious. You're being selfish. This isn't just about you. Think about your future nephew or niece. And this imaginary baby precisely needs my unit, the one I own, the one I bought. Nina has already chosen the wall color. My mother spoke as if this settled the matter. She has a beautiful vision for the space. I laughed. I couldn't help it. From nervousness, indignation, and the sheer absurdity of it all. I didn't speak. Simply, I'm not changing units. I'm not leaving here. Chris and Nina aren't moving in. This conversation is over. Just saying we don't want you here anymore, my mother stated with narrowed eyes. I wanted you here. I wanted to help. What I don't want is to be pushed out of my own house to make way for your darling. That's not fair. No, it's not. And that's why I'm leaving. I returned to my unit, called Emma. How bad is it? She asked. Remember when we were kids and Chris broke my science project the night before the fair? In the end, I apologized. It's worse now. They're calling me selfish because I don't want to give up my house for my little brother. Emma remained silent for a moment. You know what that means, right? What? It's time to stop being the good daughter and start being clever. Forget your heart. Think about your bank account. I looked at the nursery brochure still on the counter. How is this? I think I know someone. A real estate agent named Kingsley. I want his number. I thought of Chris's message, my mother's unconcern, and the blessed measuring tape. Yes, I want it. The motion sensor alert went off on my phone at 2:17 p.m. I had installed it that morning. Discreet, aimed at my door. Sitting at my desk, I opened the live feed. Chris and my father were entering my home. Are you sure she's at work? Chris's voice, clearly audible. She never comes back before 5. My father responded. Where's the measuring tape? I turned up the volume, my hands trembling. I found Nina. She wants to know if a king-size bed fits here. The camera showed Chris stretching the tape measure across the wall of my bedroom. My mother said Meg will understand when we explain about the baby's story. She knows how to deal with her. It's Meg who always gives in. Remember when she gave me her car in college? My father chuckled. The Toyota. Your mother convinced her that you needed it more for your delivery job than she did for her engineering internship. Good times. Hey, are these cabinets big enough to turn into a separate room? I turned off the feed. Emma's cafe table, situated 2 cubicles away, became a focal point. I texted, need to eat now. 20 minutes later, we were seated in Emma's car, parked behind the office building. I showed her the video, entitled Spoiled Brats. Emma interrupted, please tell me you called the police. What did Dad and my brother use? My mom's measuring tape. For furniture they won't even buy? Just my room? She pulled out her phone. I'm calling Kingsley now. This has gone too far. It's getting bizarre. The real estate agent, as mentioned, is overseeing several properties on your street. An investment firm is buying everything there, paying above market value. If you can deliver the empty units, vacate them, I asked, watching her dial. Meaning, evict my parents? Stop being a doormat and start being strategic? Kingsley answered on the second ring. A calm, professional voice. Emma, good you called. And your friend, ready to discuss numbers? He queried. A knowing look passed between them. Absolutely ready, she replied. Kingsley asserted, We at Reed Scott Investments have significant interest in your area. We're paying a premium for multifamily properties, especially townhouses, but they must be vacant. My mind drifted back to Nina's Instagram tour and my mother's callous disregard for my feelings. Paying a premium, he continued. How much exactly? A number tumbled from his lips, nearly causing me to choke on my iced tea. Considerable, I managed to reply. But a caveat remained. A tight deadline, 3 weeks maximum. Both units must be empty by then. Emma silenced the call. This sum could buy a splendid apartment with a view, free of intrusive family. I restored the call. Send me the paperwork. I'll send it today. Maintain secrecy until ready to announce the deal. These transactions work best when everyone discovers it simultaneously. Following the call, Emma regarded me intently. Is everything all right? I don't know. It seems fair. Fair? A better word is terrifying. My phone buzzed with an audio message from the family group chat. Chris's animated voice filled the car. Mom and Dad, I don't know how to thank you for making this happen. This is my first big step towards adulthood. I couldn't do it without you. Nina was already planning the nursery. Emma raised an eyebrow. Still scared? I played the message again, letting the arrogant confidence of my brother fill the air. He didn't bother excluding me. That's how he knew I'd cave. Give me Kingsley's email. I returned to work, utterly unable to focus. The advertisement Kingsley sent showcased our townhouse, viewed from the street. A simple yet well-maintained building. Freshly painted last spring thanks to me. The proposal letter awaited in my inbox. A blinking cursor in the signature line. My phone buzzed again. Mother's message. Meg, dinner tonight. We need to discuss some improvements to your unit. Nothing major, just some changes to make it more suitable for a young couple. The audacity was hilarious. They weren't even trying to hide it anymore. My reply, sure, Mom. Let's discuss the changes. Kingsley's email arrived and I signed the preliminary papers. Emma texted, you did it. I just signed. There's nothing wrong with feeling nothing. It's called regaining self-esteem. I'm back in the family group chat. A message from Chris followed. I can't wait to upgrade this place. No offense to Mags, but her style is quite basic. I was tempted to reply and detail exactly how basic her apartment hunt would be without free options. But instead, I closed the chat and sent Kingsley an email. Papers signed, let's make this happen. Sometimes the best revenge isn't a dramatic argument. It's a silent signature on a document no one saw coming. Kingsley's office was exactly as one imagines. Glass, chrome, and expensive coffee. He wore a custom-tailored suit, likely more expensive than my first car, and smiled as if he understood the value of everything. Reed Scott is very interested in your property, he said, sliding a folder across the table. Location, state, potential. Check all boxes. They really need those 2 vacant units. Company policy involves extensive renovations. He paused. I know there might be personal complications. I recalled my mother's morning message. Nina's parents want to view the nursery next week. We'll use your spare key. No complications. I replied, opening the folder. The figures left me dizzy. Just the down payment would cover a great apartment. The total would buy a much better place outright. 3 weeks is fast, that's why the offer is so generous. Reed Scott values efficiency. He pointed to the papers. Of course, if it's too tight, it's not. I grabbed the pen. While I signed my name across the pages, Kingsley explained the process. The deposit would arrive in a few days. The full payment would be finalized upon closing. All I had to do was ensure the 2 units were vacant. As usual, we post formal notices once the contract closes. But in your case, perhaps it's better to resolve it yourself, meaning telling them personally. He shrugged. Sometimes it's easier to let the paperwork speak for itself. Emma materialized at my desk, a steaming cup of coffee in hand. 3 weeks until closing. How are you feeling? I stared at the computer. An unread email from my mother was there. Subject: improvement suggestions for your unit. Attached. I feel like the worst daughter in the world, or the only sensible person in the family. I chose the second option. Emma sat on my desk. Have you started looking for a new place yet? I found a few options. A central apartment caught my eye. My phone buzzed. Sister, Nina's parents will be visiting the apartment next week. Is everything okay for you? I replied, sorry, I'm swamped. No. The 3 dots appeared. Relax, we have the key. The effortless way he stated this made my decision even easier. I opened my mother's email. The attached document was titled, Necessary Changes for Chris and Nina's New Home. The list was extensive. Remove personal items from the master bedroom. Nina wants a fresh start. Paint walls neutral colors. The current ones are too dark. Replace the shower head. Chris prefers rain style. Install new organizers in the closet. Nina needs more space for her shoes. The office desk was about to become the baby's room. My mother had added, "We can start this weekend. No need to thank us. It's a pleasure to help." Emma read over my shoulder. "But no way, calm down, it will get better," she said while I scrolled down the file. They'd created a schedule for my move to the back unit. Per the plan, I was to leave by the end of the month to allow them to prepare the space for Nina and Chris. The end of the month, a week before the eviction notice officially arrived. "Karma's a bitch," Emma remarked. I closed the email without responding and opened real estate listings. A corner apartment, 12th floor, city views caught my eye. "That's the one," Emma said, pointing to the screen. "Look at that balcony." My phone buzzed again. Another Nina Instagram story. "I can't wait to transform the space. I apologize for the current decor. The previous resident's taste was basic. I'd become that previous resident." I clicked the contact button for the apartment and scheduled a viewing for late afternoon. "Want company?" Emma asked. "Actually, yes. I need someone to remind me I'm not losing my mind." "You're not losing your mind. You're simply defending yourself. Finally." Another alert. This time from my father. My mother had thoughtfully considered these improvements. "Don't make things difficult. Don't make things difficult." The family motto, at least when it came to me. Swallowing hard, I didn't create conflict. I turned off my phone and grabbed my keys. Let's see my new home. No more hidden keys under the rug. Leaving the office, I felt lighter than I had in months. In 3 weeks, they would understand what happens when you push limits. In 3 weeks, I would be free. But first, an apartment to buy and a poker face to cultivate. That evening, my mother served more pasta, smiling, "This sauce is delicious." Mika, though, the kitchen in the back unit wasn't large enough for proper cooking. I smiled and filled her wine glass. Family dinner, my last in this house, though they didn't know that yet. 2 weeks until closing. I had mastered the art of pretending everything was fine. I considered what you'd said to my mother, watching her face light up at the mention of the unit swap. Chris nearly choked on his garlic bread. "Seriously? You're okay with this?" You know how it is. Family first." The words tasted like vinegar. "My God, this is perfect," Nina exclaimed, clapping her hands. "I even have paint samples chosen, and wait until you see my nursery mood board." My father looked uncomfortable, as he always did when things seemed too easy. "That's very generous of you, Meg." "It's nothing," I replied, standing up to clear the dishes. I needed to think about the best time to move later, after they returned to the back unit. I checked off another item on my secret list. A final family dinner. Next, remove my name from the water, light, and internet accounts. My phone buzzed with a message from Kingsley. Final paperwork completed. Reed Scott confirmed the closing date. Eviction notices will be served in a week. I'd already taken most of my important belongings. My apartment in the city center, now mine thanks to the down payment, was my new storage space. The keys were already in my possession. Emma had discreetly helped me carry boxes throughout the night. Suddenly, Chris's voice echoed through the connecting doorway. "Can I come in?" I quickly replied, "Sure." I closed the checklist app on my phone. He entered and surveyed the partially packed living room. "I just wanted to thank you. This means a lot to us." "No problem," I said, gesturing to a box. "I'm just organizing some things. Want to help unpack?" He picked up a framed childhood photo of us. "Wow. Remember when you wrecked my science project, yet you still helped me finish mine?" "I do," I responded. "You were always the responsible, balanced one." He sat down, holding the photo. "Mom said you agreed to move next week." I maintained a neutral expression, still weighing my options. Nina's parents were coming on Sunday to see the apartment. They were thrilled about the prospect of their grandchild growing up there. My phone buzzed again. Kingsley had sent printed eviction notices, ready to be placed whenever I wished. "Great," I said, putting my phone away. "Everything's falling into place." Chris hugged me, something we hadn't done in years. "You're the best sister in the world. I promise we'll make this place amazing." After he left, I changed the locks on the back doors, another item off my checklist. Peeking through the window, I saw Mom in the kitchen, likely plotting more improvements to my home. Emma called as I finished changing the locks. "How's Peeker's Oscar-worthy face doing? Are they seriously planning a room in a home they'll never live in?" "Yup," I responded, "and the notices will be posted a week after the Nina's parents' tour. And your mother is still sending demand lists today. The kitchen cabinets need a makeover before Chris moves in. The audacity is truly impressive." Nina's mood board was even more detailed than most drama-filled renovation show projects. She wants to paint over the walls I'd refinished last year. I envisioned my city center haven, free from family drama, filled with peace and quiet. No lost spare keys either. Precisely. A message pinged on the family group chat. Good news! We're inviting Nina's parents to see where the children will raise their grandchild on Sunday at 2 p.m. Meg, please make your unit presentable, I replied. Can't wait. You're awful, said Emma. I'm not awful. That's not what they've always said about me. Another message. Next week, we need to start moving your things to the back unit. Chris and Nina want to paint before the baby furniture arrives. I didn't respond. Instead, I looked at my list. Change locks, remove valuables, transfer accounts, and finally a family dinner to celebrate my new home. Only one item remained, witnessing everything unfold. Nina posted another story on Instagram. Sunday is the big day. Can't wait to show everyone our future home. I saved the story as a reminder for when the guilt inevitably arose. Surprisingly, it hadn't yet. Perhaps each harsh message, each unreasonable demand, each boundary transgression had chipped away at the remaining guilt. Just one more week of pretending. One more week of smiles and waves. One more week until they learned what happens when they mistake kindness for weakness. I extinguished the lights in my nearly empty home. I dreamt of eviction notices, a harbinger of karma. The notices arrived precisely at 9 a.m. on Monday. I heard my mother's frantic cries from the other side of the wall, followed by frantic knocking on my door. Meg! Meg! Open the door! I took a deep breath and went to answer. My mother, hands trembling, shoved the paper into my face. This is a joke, I said, determined to read it aloud. Eviction notice, property sold, 3 weeks to vacate. I looked at her, then at the notice. This can't be legal. Chris burst in, Nina hot on his heels. They can't just sell the building, I exclaimed. They can, I said. I already called the number on the notice. Dad, pale as a sheet, appeared last. The news was devastating. A company called Reed Scott Investments had purchased the entire building, planning renovations on both units. Nina started to cry. But what about our nursery? We had everything planned. We can figure this out. Mom tried to comfort her. Meg, call them. Tell them you own this unit. The sale is already finalized, I corrected. Chris snatched the phone. I'm calling a lawyer. They can't do this to us. Just then, a black car pulled up in front of the house. Kingsley, the realtor, emerged, folder in hand. Punctual? As always, I muttered. Everyone watched as he approached, an impeccable executive presence. Good morning, he said. I represent Reed Scott Investments. I understand you received our notices. Mom protested. There must be a mistake. My daughter owns the building. Former owner, Kingsley corrected, unfolding his folder. The sale closed last week. I have the paperwork here. Chris grabbed the documents, his voice a panicked whisper. But this is 2 weeks old. You already knew? I maintained my composure. I received the same offer as you have here. Reed Scott is buying properties throughout the neighborhood. Why didn't you tell us? Nina demanded. Would it have made a difference? The offer was too good to refuse. Mom's face shifted from red to white. You sold it without telling us. Just like they were going to kick me out without telling me. Complete silence descended. Kingsley cleared his throat. The terms are quite clear. Both units must be vacated within 3 weeks. Reed Scott is prepared to offer modest assistance with relocation costs. Chris scoffed. We had everything planned. Your future, I said, keeping my voice steady within my own home, was measured against my back. The realization struck first on my father's face. Meg, the notices are valid, Kingsley continued. All documentation is in order. I suggest you use this time to find alternative housing. Nina sobbed again. But my parents had already purchased the baby furniture. It was scheduled to arrive next week. Cancel the delivery, I said. Mom approached, her tone softening. You planned this? You're not my daughter anymore. I stopped feeling like their daughter the moment they decided my home belonged to Chris. Kingsley handed over packets containing rental options and relocation services. Reed Scott appreciates your cooperation. Chris crumpled the brochure. This isn't over. We'll fight this. Feel free, said Kingsley. But remember, the sales contract, the breach of contract case handled by Ms. Valdez's attorney, had taken its toll. Everyone turned to me. Did you hire a lawyer? My father demanded. I learned from the best, I replied. Family first, you know. Nina stormed off, followed by Chris, ranting about legal proceedings. Mom stood rooted to the eviction notice, clutching it like a life preserver. 3 weeks, Kingsley reminded us. After that, Any remaining occupants would be legally removed. Dad grabbed Mom's arm. "Come on, Yolanda, we need to talk." They left without looking back at me. Kingsley spoke only when they were out of sight. "Final documents are ready. Sign them whenever you're ready." I watched from my window as my family huddled within their unit, likely plotting their next move. "They'll try to reverse this," Kingsley warned, adding, "I learned something important recently. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just serving karma, it's serving karma with the right paperwork." Kingsley smiled and returned to his car. I closed the door to my empty unit, feeling lighter than I had in months. My phone buzzed. "It's happened. It's over. Freedom in 3 weeks. How are you feeling?" I glanced at the mood board Nina had left on my counter last week, a gesture that finally gave me the courage to embrace change. The changeover arrived with the screech of truck brakes and the clatter of boxes. Emma and I stood on the sidewalk as movers emptied both units. My parents' furniture was destined for storage. They'd found a small apartment across town. My remaining belongings went straight to my new apartment. "They haven't spoken to you yet?" Chris asked. He had tried to sue me yesterday. His attorney glanced at the sales agreement and immediately backed down. A loud noise from inside startled us. Nina rushed out, mascara streaking down her face. "It's all your fault," she shrieked. "You plan to live in my house." "Correction," I countered. "This is different." "But we are family. Family doesn't measure hidden corners behind each other's backs." She raised her arms, measuring something. "We were trying to plan the future in my house without consulting me, knowing I would say no. I actually saw the movers carry away the sofa I bought last year. That should have been your answer from the start, Chris." Chris appeared behind her, defeated. "Come on, Nina, it's not worth it. It's not worth it." She turned to him. "My sister ruined our future, and you think it's not worth it?" "Our future," she retorted. "Where you redecorate my house, raise kids in my space, and I vanish into the back unit. A good little sister." "You're jealous," she spat, filled with envy. "Because we're forming a family and you're alone." Emma stepped forward, but I raised my hand. "I'm not alone, Nina. I'm free." "Free for what? To live in a soulless condo while we're struggling to find a place?" "You could try paying for one like I did," I suggested. Chris grabbed Nina's arm. "Let's go. There's still packing to do." "This was our only chance," she screamed at him. "Our parents promised us this house. It never belonged to them. It was a promise." I spoke quietly. "Nina, let go. You're just a boy." Her outburst, a torrent of unspoken resentment, echoed in the silence. "Spoiled brat, never grew up," she'd declared, her voice laced with weariness. The endless wait for him to mature had finally ended. We watched her climb into the car, tires screeching in a defiant farewell. Chris stood there, a vacant expression on his face, a picture of bewildered confusion. This was my chance, my opportunity to prove my worth, to demonstrate my own resilience, by reclaiming what was rightfully mine. He'd always had it all planned. The good job, the house, the carefully constructed life. I, on the other hand, had toiled relentlessly to achieve mine. He ought to try someday. He just shook his head. "You don't understand," he sighed, his voice barely a whisper. Mom and Dad. What promises did they make? A house for him? Nurtured beliefs that this was a rightful claim on my efforts? They merely desired, I know it now, to see him comfortable, secure, with everything in his grasp. And I should abandon everything I had earned for his sake? The truck roared to life, leaving the empty garage behind. Through the window, I saw my mother sitting in the sterile, chairless living room, her gaze fixed on the empty space. "Chris, you should have built your own future instead of trying to steal mine." He departed without a word, his shoulders slumped in defeat. My father followed shortly afterward, a box of photographs clutched tightly in his hand. His mother had kept them all, every school picture, even the ones where he refused to smile. "I've never been one for pretending." "I understand perfectly," I replied, a surprising calmness in my voice, though I had stopped agreeing with them. Mother appeared at the door, a resolute air about her. "We're ready," she announced to my father, as if I wasn't even there. They loaded the car with suitcases, leaving without a word. I saw my mother dabbing at her eyes before they drove away. Emma put a hand on my arm. "It's okay, honestly, it really is." I watched the last moving van disappear around the corner. It hurt, of course, but it didn't hurt nearly as much as the thought of letting them take everything. I want to see my new home, with no drama, no troublesome siblings, and no measuring tapes. I forced a smile. In truth, I have one last task. We walked through the now empty rooms, my footsteps echoing in the spaces that once held so many dreams, ours and theirs. In what was my bedroom, the remnants of Nina's paint samples still clung to the walls, baby, yellow, and white. I sighed and tore them off, one by one. Emma, standing in the doorway, seemed ready. Outside, she stood ready. I locked both doors, the final act in this chapter. The keys were for Kingsley tomorrow, along with the final paperwork. "Hey," Emma said as we walked toward the car. "Remember what you said when you bought this place?" "What?" "Family is everything. Funny how things change," I replied, looking back at the empty house. "Family is everything," I repeated, until the words felt heavy and hollow. The city lights glowed through the windows of my new apartment, extending from floor to ceiling. Emma poured the wine. The atmosphere felt different in the new place. Cleaner, lighter, as if the air had been cleansed of all guilt and obligation. Purchased outright with a clear conscience. Emma raised her glass. "Cheers," she said. My phone vibrated. A message from Kingsley. Reed Scott had just announced the house's asking price, double what we paid. "Wow," said Emma, looking at the screen. "They don't waste any time." "Good for them," I responded. I stared at the sale photos. Every trace of the life I'd built there, the dreams my family had tried to steal, had vanished. No sign of them yet. A drunken message from Chris last week. It mentioned Nina returning home. It seemed she'd had enough.